Welcome to the show, everybody. Today's episode of Lessons from Failure. We're going to be sharing some insights with Moza-Bella. She's normally the host of this show, but today we switched seats. She's going to tell you a little bit more about that. So, one of the things that we endeavor to do with this show is we want to show people the value of, of media as it pertains to their business. How does that build your brand? How does that build your business, right? So, Moza, can you share with us a little bit about, your thoughts on that? How does this help our clientele?
Well, our clients, I have met over the years, I've met great people, great entrepreneurs. They've been doing the business for a very long time. However, how, they're still struggling. How can we help them to stand out, right, as a brand, as a company? Like, if you're very good at what you do, just like you're the greatest book on the shelf, how do people know about you to be able to know the knowledge and the expertise that you have accumulated? So that's why I was thinking that, a lot of people on podcast, a lot of people on YouTube. So what do we do different? Then, here we are, the TV show. It's different. We have helped a lot of businesses to stand out, and therefore they kind of attract the right people and the right customers.
Interesting. Yeah. And when you and I met, the thing I found fascinating about you is you had taken yourself as a person and combined your person, you the person with your business, and you did an unbelievable job of branding that, of putting that out to the marketplace. Of course, we endeavor to do that for our customers as well, right? So, tell me a little bit more about how the TV show, how the digital TV show accomplishes that for our guests that come onto the show.
I think usually, most other, because we're in the media, I've been in public relations and media for a few years, so I know that whenever that you get a spot on TV show, you basically have 5 to 7 minutes, right? Unless like you somebody like, extremely like famous. But otherwise you have only like a few seconds on the show, and then people just see you for like a brief minute, and then that's it, you're gone, and then they go to the next one. So I'm thinking that if there's a way that we can get people to kind of understand not what you're doing, but who you are as a human being, right? We all say, hi, how are you? My name is Barbara, and this is what I do. How about who are you as a person? What do you believe in? What do you stand for? And I think that is so important. Those are core values that make you different than the rest of other people, right? In regards to branding.
Yeah.
So that's why we create this show. This is a platform where I will ask you questions because I'm more interested in you as who you are before what you do, because I think that's who you are determines what you do today, right? And where you are, you position yourself in the marketplace today. So, I will ask those questions about that. And I think, nowadays with, it's a very noisy place. Everybody does pretty much the same thing. And if people have that connection with you, then you will stand out differently. And if they believe in, they share the same values with you as a brand, as a human being, then that will set a different relationship. It's not transactional, but it's more a long-term relationship.
That's interesting. That concept is very interesting. We've all heard in branding, but more so in marketing and sales, that people will do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So I think that the goal of our show was to help speed up that process for our clientele. So could you share a little bit more about that, like the process, that the kind of the thinking that went behind that for our clients?
Yes, I think most of us, what is the common ground? Everybody starts from zero. Everybody has challenges, right? And I think we all fail at some point, right? We will fall down, and then what makes us different is that who decides to stand up and who decides to move forward from there. So I myself, I have experienced that I've shared this with a lot of other people that when you are in the darkest moment, in the hardest time, most of the time you're down there by yourself. People don't come to you until you have made it, right? So when you're down there by yourself, struggling, what is it, the one thing that helped you to stand up and get up and rise from there? And everybody's story is different, and I find it very, very inspiring. And I would like to learn that from everybody. So, that would be the number one question that I would ask. Okay, so tell me about, your failures, one of the experiences, and what helped you to get yourself where you are today.
So when you ask people about that, right? Because everybody's got a story, right? Everybody's got
That's so
some
true.
kind of thing that's happened in their life,
Absolutely,
right?
yep.
And so how can our audience, how can they use those stories to forward their message, right? How can they incorporate a story into the value of their value proposition or their value to their business?
Yes, I think we all learn some sort of lessons from each, attempt. So, like we all believe that it's not about the failure is just a moment, right? It's just temporary. So, the lesson that we learn from it is going to be lifelong lessons. The moment it just you try out, and if you talk to any other successful people, they will tell you that they will try numerous times, and they fail numerous times, right? Occasionally, something worked, and that just one step at a time, and that would lead them to where they are today. And if we keep that mindset, if we know that we keep pushing forward and don't give up, absolutely, it's gonna help us for the long run. Now, the reason I put all of these together, because then you can see that if other people do it, then if you are in the darkest moment, if you are in the most challenging time, then you know that you're not the only one. So you should not give up. You should just move forward. And here, if you listen from the lessons, right? If I can put somebody who's been successful in 30 years and I put it together in a show for you for like 20 minutes, would you want to learn from them? That is the best. What would you want to learn from them? I would, and that's why I put together like this show for everybody, for all of us to learn from.
Yeah. I mean, with that in mind, what would you say is the difference between the person who musters, who moves forward versus the person who gives up or pulls back, right? Because everybody's faced with these challenges somewhere along the way. We happen to be talking about business, and being an entrepreneur is a particularly interesting ride, I'll call it, right?
Yeah.
Much like a roller coaster. One day things are going great, and the next day not so much, right? But so what do you think is the difference, or have you ever spotted in someone's personality what makes some people continue to move forward and some people just throw their hands up and say, I quit?
I think, one of the key things is that the responsibility, right? If you take that responsibility, you said, it's my responsibility that I need to move this forward. Nobody is going to do this for me. Then that's the difference. Other people, they may say, okay, well, here I am, and I'm waiting for things to happen so that I could move forward. And that, to me, I think that is the difference. How about you? I know that you have gone through like a lot of, challenges in life. Did you find that true as well?
Yeah, look, I mean, the reality is, I had a time of my life that was a very dark time, right? More so than maybe some people have experienced. I think at that point, I had the will to do better. I didn't know how. I didn't know what to do at that exact moment, but I had the will to figure it out. And by virtue of that, I was able to, call it whatever you want, the universe, God, serendipity, whatever you want to call it. All of a sudden things started to line up where I met the right people and I got into different situations. and I was able to literally, they talk about I literally did a 180 in my life. I was going in one particular direction, and I completely changed that direction. The interesting thing about that, and I'd love to get your take on this as well, is the interesting part about that is that life, business, anything for that matter, a change takes place in an instant. It's in the moment of the decision. You don't see the result at that moment, but that's when the change takes place. I decide to do something, right?
Right.
In my case, I decided to turn around and go 180 degrees in the opposite direction. I had no idea how that was going to go, how it was going to work out. Things didn't look very good at that point.
Right.
But it was that decision. The Latin root of decide means to cut off from. Once you make a decision, then of course there's no other possibility if you've really made that decision. And I'd love to get your take on that as well.
Well, so for me, absolutely, I think, making the decision is just for you to have that clarity on your mind, right? But then more often than not, I was like, okay, so now I have decided, so now what, right? Because now you have made the decision to maybe change the direction or, something totally different. And now what? Overwhelmed, of course, but then that's when you would have to kind of, learn, I have to say, okay, well, so then take actions. Okay, what will be the next step that I need to do, and break it down to like small target so that we are not too overwhelmed with the big goal that we would like to achieve.
Yeah, that's great advice, right? What's that saying? The best laid plans, right? If you make a plan but you take no action, or you give up, then you won't reach your goal, right?
Absolutely.
I think it was Winston Churchill who said, "Never give up, never give up," right?
Yeah.
So when you're faced with obstacles, or you're faced with doubt, or you're faced with, you and I talked about this on a podcast episode where we talked about the word doubt versus fear, right? Fear is something that you can identify it and you can kind of work through that. Doubt is a much more difficult thing because doubt is that little boogeyman that lives in your head that tells you you can't, or I don't belong here, or when you go to make the biggest presentation of your life, or you go to ask the gal or the guy of your dreams out on to go out and have dinner or whatever, and then doubt is the little voice in your head that starts to tell you things that are just not true, right? It starts to tell you that you're not good enough, you don't belong here, things like that. As opposed to fear, you can identify what it is, and if you have the wherewithal, you can walk through fear, right? Doubt's a little bit more difficult. What is your take on that?
I think it's a very interesting concept. You would, but you're right, because that would be like you're gonna stuck in that circle and you're not gonna do anything. At least, fear, okay, well, I'm fearful, so what do I do to overcome fear, right? But doubt is like you're just circling, and it's maybe, it's very, it's a wasteful way to do to use your time, and I believe that time is the most precious thing, and we usually take it for granted. Today, we're sitting here today at this moment, half an hour later, this moment is going to be gone and it will become the past, right? And how do we use it? Time, I've lost my father, I've lost my, my fiance in life, and I've lost, my aunt just passed away, and I dealt in medical field. I have dealt with patients that lost their lives over, I would say, 14 years now. Wonderful people. You see them today, the next day they're gone, and I have gone through that and that process. And most of the time I had that conversation. If I had the chance to have the conversations with each and every one of them, and I would ask, what are the things that you feel proud of, right? And what are the things is anything that you would like to change? And one common thread is about regret. Most people will regret that they did not do what they wanted to do when they still had the time or the chance to do it. And I don't want to be in that position. I want to be able to live to the fullest. So therefore, if you have somebody that you're thinking about that you would like to make the phone call, do it right now, this moment, right? You want to say that, okay, I love you to your mom, your dad, your children, your friend, whoever. Do it at this moment. You think about them, pull up the phone and text them and call them right now. Don't wait. Because you never know if that next minute is going to happen. I'm telling you, I don't want to be dramatic, but you never know, right? If you have that thought that, okay, this is something that I would like to do for my business, do it right now. Because if you wait for a little later, somebody else would come out and do that before you, right? So that's what I would encourage, take actions. Take actions all the time. Don't just thinking about it, because a thought would not take you anywhere, but actions will take you to the next what would you say, the next step on the path of success.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying that we should call our customers and tell them that we love them.
Oh, absolutely.
I guess we should, right?
We do have great customers, and I do love them. Like I love most everybody. I mean, I meet anybody and I love them first, right? Until they give me the reason not to love them anymore. But I do love them though.
And kidding aside, I want to just talk about that point for people in business, that it's extremely important, from my observation in 40 plus years in business, make decisions quickly, change them slowly, as opposed to people who make decisions slowly and then change them quickly. The importance of that is and as it relates to time, my best friend, when we were 39 years old, was killed in a car accident. And it was around 9 o'clock at night, I'll call it. The point of that is, at 4 o'clock that afternoon, at 39 years old, he had no idea that he only had 5 hours left of his life. He had no idea.
So profound.
And that's so true with everybody, whether something happens unexpectedly or whether you've lived out your full life, is that the reality is we don't know when that time is, right? And so, kind of to circle back to that again, is share with the audience from a business perspective the importance of taking action right now. When you know it's the right thing for your business, what is the importance of taking action immediately?
Just take action immediately. You may not have all of the answers, but do it now. Do it now. Do it today. You will learn along the way. I've done a lot of things that was wrong. I invested in the money to the wrong people. I trusted the wrong people, but you know what? Those are lessons learned. That's the price we have to pay, right? Nothing comes to us for free, so why would we expect, success to be something easy? So, just start taking actions, talking to the right people. Most importantly, listening to the people that who have been where you are, or what would be the words? Like, you need to seek the advice from the right person, right? Some people love you, but then the advice that they give you is from their own personal perspective and their own experience, and that may not be the best advice for you at this moment, right? So be very selective about that. But again, like all of us, you fail and then you learn, and you fail and you learn. You know that success is going to be right there, so don't give up. And that's why, we call it the lessons from failures, right? Not for you to fall down and die, but for you to thrive from there.
Thank you for sharing with us. So can you tell us a little bit about your final thoughts? What if you could have a great final thought for our audience, please share that with us.
Well, I would say, don't let fear or failure hold you back from pursuing your dreams. Well, ladies and gentlemen, every successful person that you admire has faced failure, and often more than once. The difference is that they didn't let it stop them. So keep going, keep growing, stay true to your values, and remember that your failures are just lessons from the road to your greatest success.
Well, thank you very much. This has been an awesome episode. It has been fun to switch spots, so to speak. You're usually the host, and I've sometimes been the guest. Of course, we have other guests, but thank you for joining us today and sharing your thoughts with us. It's been very inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And this has been a pleasure. And thank you, our audiences. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Don't miss the next episode of Lessons from Failures. And remember, your setback can lead to your greatest comeback. See you the next time.